The chief of the DOJ's fraud team has just said that you will see some more activity from us involving short sellers sometime in the next few months. I have some good news. Hey, welcome to AMC Daily. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications by hitting the bell so you never miss any of our uploads and also enter our giveaway. But everyone remember, this is not a financial advice video. Today, I want to talk about how the DOJ is finally actually investigating short sellers and is actually expecting to prosecute some of these shorts for abusing options over the coming months. The DOJ is to double down on their short selling practices or their short selling investigations. It says remarks on Wednesday by the chief of the Justice Department Fraud Section's Market Integrity Team was the first time a DOJ official has talked openly about this relatively new area of focus. Short selling, including via options, is a priority for prosecutors, Ava Perry, the chief of the Market Integrity Team, said at a Practicing Law Institute event in New York. And he said, "You'll see some more activity from us involving short sellers sometime in the next few months." Yahoo Finance reports that the Justice Department and the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission has been investigating potential manipulation by short sellers and hedge funds around the publication of negative research reports. The broad probe is an example of the agency's efforts to use data to root out potential misconduct by traders and to dig more deeply into the securities markets. As I said, I think that's absolutely brilliant that DOJ is going off the short sellers for abusing options and is expected to bring charges over the coming months. Back in the past, this was just lip service. But I think now that short selling has risen to prominence, or that manipulative short selling of bank stocks has risen to prominence, I think the DOJ are taking this whole short selling investigation much more seriously. And I think as a result, they're going to end up uncovering much more than they actually bargained for, or they may have already uncovered exactly that. And that's why they're going to see more activity from the DOJ involving short sellers sometime in the next few months. Obviously, this is good for AMC. If short sellers do end up getting exposed by the DOJ, and the existence of synthetic shares ends up being exposed as well, especially if the DOJ then forces these short sellers to either close out of their short positions or just shuts down their hedge fund in its entirety. I also wanted to talk about this tweet from Bill Ackman about Carl Icahn and how Carl Icahn may actually cause the next squeeze. Bill said that Icahn's margin lenders must be extremely concerned with the current situation, considering that Carl Icahn has just been exposed by Hindenburg Research. His stock has fallen over 50%, and he's down over $15 billion in the last few years. And he said they must be particularly concerned in light of the recent involvement of the DOJ against Carl Icahn's hedge fund, especially because the DOJ will also be investigating the lender's involvement in the situation too. And Bill Ackman says there's likely more than one margin lender involved here because of the very large size of the loan and the risk limits that margin lenders have. He said, IEP reminds me somewhat of Archegos, where the swap counterparties were comforted by each having relatively small exposure to the situation. The problem is that multiple lenders make for a more chaotic situation. All it takes is for one lender to break ranks and liquidate shares or attempt to hedge before the house comes falling down. And he said here the patsy is the last lender to liquidate or the last lender to reach the exit door, especially if the DOJ starts investigating and charging short sellers. I don't think it will be long until their lenders start pulling the plug as well. Can you imagine if the DOJ turned their sights to Citadel, and as a result, Bank of America pulled the plug on all of those Citadel margin loans? That would be absolute chaos of Citadel liquidating pretty much their entire fund long and short positions in a matter of just a few days. Yes, Bank of America would end up getting burnt as a result, but they'd absolutely be the first to the exit door if the DOJ was investigating. And something interesting I also found is where he says that I'm surprised that Icahn has not disclosed the terms of his margin loans, including who provided them. He said, my understanding of the SEC 13D rules is that they require disclosure of sources of financing and even copies of financing agreements, although many investors ignore these requirements. So therefore, we could also have many hedge funds and many short sellers hiding the true sources of their financing and how much financing they've actually received. They could be covering up the true extent of their margin positions and just how overleveraged they truly are. They could be using this to avoid those margin calls by not disclosing the true extent of their leverage or the true extent of their financing. But obviously, as I said, when one of these lenders pulls the plug upon an investigation, the rest of the lenders will try and pull that same plug as well, as nobody wants to be last to the exit door. Now, I also wanted to expose some AMC FUD from Mike the Marine, who believes that AMC becoming profitable is somehow bad for the squeeze. As Tony Denaro tweeted, he said this guy is speaking out against fixing the income statement and increasing revenues. He says he sees a pattern. Mike the Marine is basically saying that AMC generating additional revenue is bad for the squeeze and that actually AMC should instead go bankrupt. He thinks if AMC generates losses and goes bankrupt, that's somehow good for the squeeze. His argument is that if AMC generates more revenue and generates profit and becomes a bit depositive, then Adam gets his shares vested a little bit earlier, and he somehow thinks that if Adam Aron gets an extra few 100,000 shares, that's somehow bad for the squeeze, and that instead AMC should go bankrupt. Now I want to explain why going bankrupt for AMC is terrible for the squeeze and kills the squeeze instantly. Well, number one, straight off the bat, if AMC goes bankrupt, it gets delisted from the New York Stock Exchange, which is exactly what the shorts wanted all along. Now it seems this mainstream media outlet, The Street, is almost trying to aid Mike the Marine by saying that bankruptcy in Bed Bath and Beyond may trigger a massive short squeeze. Again, I want to make it clear that if AMC files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and gets delisted from the stock exchange, that is not good for the AMC squeeze and stops it dead in its tracks. We know that Bed Bath & Beyond has now gone bankrupt. It's now been delisted and it's lost the battle, but AMC has not yet lost the war. I'd also want to remind you that Mike the Marine is against the reverse split and now, for some reason, seems to be for an AMC bankruptcy, which is, again, why you need to be so careful of people spreading FUD and either trying to convince you to sell your shares or to stop supporting AMC and hope the company goes bankrupt. It just makes no sense. Now, somebody else that was against the reverse split has just deleted or had her Twitter account deleted, and it was that girl trader or Amy. I wonder if Amy saw the Department of Justice was going to investigate short sellers further, and as a result decided to dip out and delete her own Twitter. Again, these are both people that were against the reverse split and think that AMC going bankrupt or generating a larger loss is actually somehow good for the squeeze. But supposedly these people don't get caught up in short squeezes. I hope you can now all realize that there absolutely is a cabal of people against AMC and trying to push the company into bankruptcy and trying to convince you to sell your shares. So obviously I hope as a result that you do your due diligence and try and figure out for yourselves if AMC going bankrupt is good for the stock price or not, and also do your own research on this new Department of Justice investigation. Now, speaking of reverse splits, Tony has also tweeted saying people would like to blame reverse splits like in BBIG and MULN for a stock price falling, but ignore the price trajectory for months prior to the reverse split. He said a falling price after the reverse split is just simply a continuation caused by flawed fundamentals and derelict financials. But obviously, if a company fixes those fundamentals, the price goes up. Like in EDU, which also performed a reverse split, EDU performed a 1-for-10 reverse split down here at $8 per share, but has since improved its fundamentals, improved its revenues, improved its profits, and as a result, the stock price has multiplied. Yes, you can. Obviously, in stocks like MULN, when they performed a reverse split, the stock price did continue to fall. But that's only because over the last 2 years, the stock price had dropped significantly. The company is losing money and will soon go bankrupt. The bankruptcy isn't a result of the reverse split. The bankruptcy is a result of the company not generating profits. And that's why, obviously, AMC increasing their profits is good for the company, as it means that AMC avoids bankruptcy and avoids that delisting. And that's exactly why generating a heavier loss or not generating more revenues and going bankrupt is bad for the squeeze. Hopefully, everyone can now see that there absolutely are people out there trying to convince you that bankruptcy is somehow good for AMC, which it's definitely not. And hopefully you can now also see that a reverse split is not bad for a company that is also fixing its fundamentals, provided Adam Aron doesn't dilute by hundreds of millions of shares. Guys, that's all we have for you today. What is your opinion about AMC stock? Get involved and let us know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.